Global business for previous class we have studied issue uh, occurring from licensing contract. This time we will continue with uh, characteristic of licensing. The licensing itself is the same meaning, technology transfer, right? So uh, we have to review the benefit analysis of licensing. Okay, so analyze the benefit by licensing contract. So that is thing we have to study. One of thing we have to study in this class. Okay, we can divide it. We can divide licensing. What is the factors increasing profit in licensing, and what is the factors occurring cost incrementally, okay, in licensing. So first, licensing's main profit increase factors. Okay. So to analyze the benefit of licensing, we should consider the duration, the period, okay, and the profit which can be obtained during period, okay. And one other thing we have to study is the factors of revenue growth, okay. Factors of revenue growth in licensing. Okay, first, what is the factors making profit increase? Okay, profit increase. So usually we represent profit as revenue, right? Revenue. So the factors which increase revenue. Okay, the factors which increase revenue. For this, we have the analysis. We have the analysis. We have to analysis, of benefit during license period, right? During license period. During license period. Okay. The benefit should be within license period. Okay, within license period. It should be, okay, within license period. Okay, within license period. And also, we have to check. We have to check factors which increase cost. Factors which increase cost in licensing contract. Licensing contract. Okay. We can divide into three main factors. Okay, three main cost, same meaning. Three main factors, three main cost. What is the main cost? Okay, and first, opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is lost cost, right? Lost cost. As you select other options, another options which is not selected is your opportunity cost. Okay, that might be your opportunity cost. Okay, so this cost, opportunity cost, also increase your cost because you lost that benefit. Okay, as much as you lost the benefit as selecting other options, the opportunity cost will be your damage, and that opportunity cost is benefit you lose, right? So opportunity cost is one of factor which increase the cost. Okay, so the profit from other methods such as export and direct investment due to the conclusion of a license agreement. As you select license agreement, you lose other options like right? Because you lose other options, that might be your opportunity cost. Okay? So, once you select licensing contract, you might lose, import, whether it's direct or indirect. And also, you lose the benefit from FDI, foreign direct investment, okay? Because you already select a licensing contract, okay? Okay, then startup cost. That is startup cost. What is the meaning of startup cost? The meaning of startup cost is that as you start your business, once you receive the license from license company, right? Once you receive, okay, licensing contract and the cost of a startup, okay, cost occur in the process of transferring technology to licensed company. That is so-called startup cost. Okay, that is the so-called startup cost. Maintenance cost, the cost incurred in a process of applying. Okay, in a process of applying. Understand? Okay. Yes. Instead of adopting licensing, we have to sacrifice opportunities. What kind of opportunity? The opportunity having export and FDI. The export and FDI. As we adopt licensing, we cannot adopt, FDI and export. Because licensing is most safest way to enter into new area, but lowest price, lowest profit. Because of this, your opportunity to adopt export or FDI will be lost. Okay, that is opportunity cost as we adopt licensing. So we will have a cost of opportunity. Second, we will have a startup cost. Okay, startup cost. The startup cost is the cost in the process of transferring licensing. Okay, transferring licensing. That is cost of startup. In case of licensing, license should transfer their technology to licensee, and also it need training of licensee. So the cost for this purpose is called safety cost, startup cost, sorry. So this cost is also one of factors to increase the cost once we adopt licensing contract. Okay, the third cost is maintenance cost. Okay, maintenance cost is as it is the cost which is needed in transferring our technology. Okay, franchisee should adopt also to handle this licensing contract successfully. He needed to adopt management and also lot of things to maintain licensing contract. That sort of all contract cost is called there is a maintenance P, maintenance cost. Okay, maintenance cost. So this is cost also. So these three costs is very prominent cost once you involved in transferring licensing. Okay, so this is one of the factors to increase cost once you involved in licensing contract. So we have reviewed two aspects just now. The one aspect is the factors which increase the profit, and the other was contrary. We have reviewed the factors which increase cost. So next we will see the advantage and disadvantage of this licensing contract. Okay, let's go to the next. Okay, the advantages of licensing and disadvantage of licensing. licensing. Okay, this is the manager of licensing. As we compare together at the same time, you might easily detect difference between two. So I will compare together at the same time. Advantage of licensing. Number one advantage, we don't need too much capital. We don't need too much capital, so less capital. Comparing to export or direct investment, right? Because licensing is transfer technology only. No any facility in local area to fabrication or manufacturing like that. So less capital spend. Okay, less capital spend. Okay, but at the same time, the disadvantage of licensing is none other than less control. Less control. Less control. Once you have done licensing contract, you just participate in the quality of licensing, okay? Other than management. That means that you are just has a sensitive to control the quality of a product, okay? Because licensing contract is the contract just to transfer technology. Once the technology is not maintained in local area, you can intervene the licensing contract. But except that, most of licensing contract, you don't have any sensitivities to control other than quality. Okay, so that means you have less control of licensee. So this is disadvantage of a licensing contract. Okay, so we have compared number one and number two comparison. Advantage and disadvantage is advantage licensing is you need cross licensing. Cross licensing. Cross licensing. The meaning of cross licensing, I told you in previous class, the cross licensing is exchange of licensing between licensee and licensee. Exchange, right? Exchange. Okay. Guess. To improve technology, you need lots of investment to gain certain patent like that. Certain patent and any other technology. Whatever. But if you have a chance to exchange your patent or technology between licensee and license, you don't need to invest additional technology which is related or necessary. So, as between consignor or consignee, either way, sometimes consignor, but sometimes consignee in case of cross-licensing. Cross-licensing, again, means that to exchange their technology. So, license, sometimes licensee, and licensee sometimes will be licensed. As they exchange their technology, they can save cost. They can save cost. At the same time, they can gain technology with less expenditure, right? Because they don't need to invest the full technology. They don't need to invest fully, right? As they exchange the technology, they can achieve their aim. So this is one advantage, as they have a licensing contract, exchange licensing. Okay, that is a cross licensing. Okay, and disadvantage here. Licensing contract is one of way to step into new land. Okay, exchange to the local area. New land meaning local area. I told you why we adopt licensing is because there was a barrier, trade barrier. Okay, a trade barrier. We have a tariff trade barrier, or we have a non-tariff trade barrier. Whatever. We have a trade barrier. This is one of the obstacles. This is one of the obstacles preventing pre-trading. Also preventing active trading as one country barrier against export, right? So to avoid this one, to escape this sort of barrier, the only way is to build up. Sorry, I'll write down here again. To build up local area. But we have several ways to build up factories or manufacturing site in local area. Licensing and consignment contract. Consignment contract is not. I'm sorry. Most prominent way is FDI. Foreign direct investment. But in case of foreign direct investment, you might have a bigger profit because you for yourself produce product in local area with your facility, or as you merge or acquisition other firm. Anyway, you have your right to control the pricing in the market. But in case of you have a bigger profit, more profit. But in case of licensing, I told you, licensing is one of the way to run into the new area, but lowest profit way, but most safest way, but lowest profit way. Because licensing only get licensing fee for sales, right? For sales from licensee. So this is very small amount usually. Okay, 1 to 5% or 3% of licensing fee of total, okay, of total sales volume. This is not stereotyped. This depending on the contract, the content, but usually lower rate. Okay. In this case, not just for this amount of profit, but other purposes are targeted, as they have a contract with the licensee in local area. Licensor can advertise their product, okay, introduce their product to very strict new area, as avoiding barrier and resistance. Okay, so but we have very complicated purpose and very complicated background once you choose the franchising, and franchising is in the field of service, corresponding method to enter into new local area is licensing in case of manufacturing product, right? Okay, so the second disadvantage of licensing was less profit than other methods of exploring new market. Okay, so number three advantage of licensing. Number three advantage of licensing disadvantage. Number three advantage of licensing, as I told you, you might gain profit using loyalty. Just now I explained the loyalty was one aspect of a disadvantage of licensing, but simultaneously it is advantage of licensing. By licensing contract, licensor gain loyalty, actually licensing fee from licensee. So we have distinguished licensee and licensee. Okay, licensee and licensee. So I told you the rest of this advantage is I already told you as I explained other advantages. But if we see number four advantage of licensing is that once local area is much sensitive against foreign investor in case of ownership or FDI, you can did, meaning that you can circumvent, okay, you can circumvent this resistance. Okay, you can circumvent, one moment. You can circumvent this kind of resistance, okay? So This is one of the way to did, but entering into new area. Okay, entering into new area. You can did, but entering into new area without resistance. Okay, without resistance. Okay, there is one advantage of franchising contract. So, number 4 advantage, I told you, lower profit. This is a disadvantage, but you have a safest entering method. Okay, you don't need any additional capital to invest in local area. Okay, you just transfer your technology, but transferring technology has also disadvantage, because as one of the disadvantage of franchising, then at the same time related to number 4, I will explain. That is, your partner licensee can be your competitor. Okay, your competitor. Okay, that's I told you. Betrayal behavior. Okay, betrayal behavior. So they will betray you. They might, not will. They might betray you. They might betray you as they accumulate your skill transfer, because you have to maintain licensing contract. You constantly has to transfer new technology enhanced. So as time goes on, licensee accumulate advanced technology. Eventually, they build their own brand and technology. Okay, so they can betray later on. They can. Okay, they can betray. Then this is one of the risky, okay, of franchisor, because they might be your competitor later on. Might be one of your competitors. Worse is the thing, once this advantage occurs, worst thing is that as your licensee has worked for a long time as your partner, they are very well known about your product. They are well known about your product. And they are very accustomed to your product, and that means that they know disadvantage of your product. Then they can easily threatening your product in the market. Okay, as they discount your product and your value in the market. Okay, so that was also one of disadvantages. So if you think in common, you can easily detect advantage and disadvantage of licensing. Okay? This advantage and disadvantage can be easily asked in the test, so it is necessary to keep in mind. Okay, there's two comparison, the advantage and disadvantage. So when I summarize again, because this is a little point of importance. So advantage of disadvantage of licensing. Advantage first. Licensing does not require a lot of capital and manpower too. Availability of cross-licensing. I told you what means of cross-licensing. Creation of royalties using intellectual property owned, right? Using like a patent. But this rate is small, right? The one of the disadvantage of licensing comparing to FDI. Okay. And also the advantage of licensing is once local citizens are sensitive to foreign direct investment and ownership, this method licensing can circumvent. Okay, circumvent. DIT, do not enter directory. So the DIT circumvent meaning that they can avoid resistance of local citizen, and they can avoid, and at the same time without resistance or less resistance. The reason why less resistance, because the licensee are usually local firms, indigenous firms, so they don't have they don't have less resistance because production company is their local company, not foreign company. Okay, and first advantage of licensing contract is stable profit. Okay, stable profit creations through the lowest risk method. Okay, but yeah, very stable, right? Very low risky. You accept technology. You do not transfer into local area. You do not invest to build your facility over there. You do not hire manpower to operate factory over there. So this is quite less expenditure. Okay, but you have even small rate. You have a very stable profit from franchisee. Okay, so this method is one of the popular method, used to explore the overseas market entry strategies. Overseas market entry strategies. Okay. And contrary, we have a disadvantage of licensing contract. Number one disadvantage, limited control of the local market. I told you the reasons, because you just have a contract transfer, okay, your technology, not capital. So you have no right, you have no authenticity to control management of there, to control manpower of there. You just control the quality. Okay. So although Licensing contract is very stable royalty income, has very stable royalty income. It is lowest profitability. Okay, I told you profitability because you gain just a few percent of royalty for each productions or sales. Okay, so your profitability is quite low. Your profitability is quite low comparing to other method to explore local market like FDI, foreign direct investment. Okay, okay, so I told you comparing to another alternatives, uh, licensing is safest but lowest profitability. That is one of the disadvantage. Okay? Number three disadvantage of licensing is I told you uh, technology limitations. Technology limitations develop as your partner franchisee can be your competitors. Competitors. Okay. So uh, sometimes you might have compressions, dispute compressions between you and your licensee. And in case of compressions, you might have very troubling time to settle down that one. Okay, because licensing is very complicated, very complicated. So it is not easy to settle down by judgment. Okay, it is very difficult to reach a satisfactory result once you have a dispute between uh, franchisor and franchisee. Okay. Okay. So I told you uh, regarding advantage and disadvantage of licensing because you have to uh, keep in mind these two comparison. This once you consider franchise licensing and franchise is similar, but in the field of service. This licensing is in the field of manufacturing product because it is the technology. Contrary, uh, even similar, franchising contract is in terms of service industry. This is a manufacturing industry, a different field, but similar level. Okay, similar method. Okay, then we might go to next step. So uh, we needed to review again the process investment entry into local area. Uh, I hope you recall what I said last time. Uh, Export is a starting point, but this is not typical. This is just a typical one, not absolutely. This is the typical one. According to the business characteristic, without exporting or without licensing, some firms, some service, some industry needed to enter into directly to local area. Okay, this is just a typical example. Uh, the initial stage was export, okay, exporting and we might face barrier, right? A tariff barrier, or non-tariff barrier. Oh, sorry. I'll write down again. Tariff barrier or non-tariff barrier. Whatever. We paste the barrier. To avoid this barrier, another alternative was licensing in period of manufacturing product and also franchising. So, owing to franchising and licensing, we didn't study franchising yet, but franchising is a similar but in different period. The period like a service, right? Like a service. Because of disadvantage of licensing, just now we have referred disadvantage point. We have referred to disadvantage. The disadvantage owing to disadvantage. The disadvantage of licensing contract. We adopt FDI. So this time we have FDI. Okay, so we will study FDI. The meaning of FDI is foreign direct investment. So the initial of first letter FDI. So we call this one FDI. Okay. FDI is a directly investment from foreign country, not having contract like licensing or franchising, and let local firm product. Not that way. FDI is a direct way to investment. We have two kinds of investment. Number one investment, merge and acquisition. We call that initial M&A, merge and acquisition. Number two investment, greenfield investment. The meaning of greenfield is to build for investment for foreign country itself, directly to invest and build a factory in the local area. From the purchasing real estate, build up building, hiring people, all process will be done by foreign investment. This is very tough job comparing to M&A. In case of M&A, foreign company will merge and acquire the company, local company, which have a certain market share. Because to reduce the time and effort in new market. Okay, we have two ways of FDI, but prior to look into detail these two kind of investment, we need to classify the kind of FDI, and then we will jump into the details. Okay, so let's see the classifications, how this FDI can be classified, for what purpose, for what level. Okay, so as I told you, the classifications FDI is important for your easy understanding later on. So also we will learn about detailed specifications of each terms classified by the level. So if I classify the FDI, I told you FDI is a foreign direct investment just now. Foreign direct investment. Okay. This FDI is classified by entity. Entity. Who invest? Entity. Okay. So once we classify FDI by entity, we can divide into two: civil invest and government. And not government, public. Civil and public. Investment entity. This is classified by entity. Who investment? Who invest? Okay. The civil is as it is invested by private firm, and public by public sector like government. Okay. We have two kinds of investment in terms of entity. The entity means who investment. Okay. Okay. Number two classifications according to investment duration. Durations. How long? How long? Short FDI. Most of FDI is long, but if you divided it, durations even long, short FDI, long FDI, long-term FDI, long FDI. Short and long, the period is divided by 1 year. By 1 year. If investment is less 1 year, we classify that short FDI. If investment is divided of 1 year, we call this long FDI. So FDI, short FDI, long FDI can be divided in terms of durations by 1 year. Okay, by 1 year. Okay, then number three classifications is how it bind. How it bind. Bind. Okay. How it bind. This classification is divided into three levels. Vertical FDI, vertical FDI, horizontal FDI, and conglomerate. Conglomerate is manifold, multiple. I can tell them as multiple. So we call the another word conglomerate. Conglomerate. Okay? Conglomerate. Conglomerate. Okay. Conglomerate. Another meaning, multiple. Multiple. FDI. So this meaning is very important. How the FDI binded, okay? Binding, according to the binding. How the FDI conglomerate. How the FDI, they are binding, okay? So by the shape of binding, we can divide the vertical FDI, horizontal FDI, conglomerate FDI, okay? Conglomerate FDI. So okay, then again, so please keep this one in mind. And we have, again, I'll repeat again. By entity, by durations, by bind, and continuing mass classification. Number 4 classification is foundation, according to the foundation. Foundations, okay? According to the foundations, I just told you M&A, FDI, and greenfield, FDI. Okay, according to the foundation safe. Foundations, how it founded, how it set up. FDI, M&A FDI, as it is, merger and acquisition. Merger and acquisition. This mean is very convenient and simple. Okay. Purchasing stock in stock market and then occupy some portions of their management right. Okay, management decision right as they acquire or merge. The way of acquire or merge is to purchase in stock markets of certain companies. Okay, then this is easy because you don't have to step in or run into quite a strange area. For example, if you want to have explored in the new market and you have to run into their market, but you are quite strange. In new market. In this case, you will spend lots of pouring cost. The meaning of pouring cost is none other than as you don't know about the background and geographical or cultural informations in new land, so you spend much more money than you can save because you are quite strange in a certain area. So you can reduce this kind of cost by using M&A because M&A are usually done for the firm which have certain significant market share. So, as you merge this kind of firm, you can easily run into new market, and you can acquire also technology in that field. If you are enter into new technology, if you adopt greenfield, you might spend lots of money and you will lost time because you are quite beginner in this part. So you have to learn technology and you have to learn, market, and you have to know country, lots of things you have to gain in new market, so it takes lots of time. But surely you have an advantage as you adopt greenfield, but once comparing to merger and acquisitions, greenfield takes lots of time and expenditure. Even it has its own advantage. Okay, so merger and acquisition is an easier way to run into new market because you might merge the firm which has market share, significant market share at local industry. Okay, so as you merge by purchasing stock in stock market, you can easily learn technology and you can easily explore existing market. So this way is usually adopted once you run into new market. Okay, so merger and acquisition is one way, and greenfield I just told you. Because of disadvantage of M&A FDI, you alternate greenfield FDI. What is then disadvantage of M&A FDI? The M&A FDI is an easier way to explore new market because I told you just now, you merge the firm which have existing market share and reputations at that industry, but it surely has a disadvantage. What is this disadvantage of M&A? Let me show that next page. Disadvantage of M&A. Disadvantage. Disadvantage of M&A, and owing to disadvantage, you will adopt greenfield. Oh, sorry, greenfield. M&A. Oh, greenfield FDA. I make frequent mistake. Greenfield FDI. Okay. The disadvantage of M&A is you have less option. You have less options. less options. For new business. And also, you needed to regulate the opinion regulate opinion regulate opinion with your partner, because merging meaning that you you acquire existing firm, then existing firm has its own management and labor union, right? So you have to persuade your partner management and labor union too. Also, in terms of facility variations or republishings, rebuilt or recreations, republishing or whatever, remodeling, whatever. In this case, for example, if you merged a motor company, and if this motor company is monopoly involved in sedan, just a car, sedan, right? Sedan. Then you wanted to expand because you invest, then found that next year SUV will be popular car. Then you want to have a new assembly line for SUV. Then the problem is that this motor company are for a long time accustomed to sedan. Then you need to expand, or you have to establish new factory, or to expand another assembly line, or to arrange labor assignment or arrange shift. So this is very keen issue for labor. It's a keen issue. Sorry, I'll write down again. Keen issue. Oops. This is a quite keen issue. And then you need to settle down this issue with existing management. Also, negotiation with the labor union. This process is very complicated in case of merging because you are not 100% owner of this firm. Okay? You have your partner or you have another stockholders which can make an influence on company decision. Once you make decision, you need cooperate with other partners. Then this process takes time and sometimes fails. And then your strategy for next year can be frustrated sometimes. Then your business will sometimes be perished. This is the disadvantage, one aspect of disadvantage of M&A FDI. Because of these reasons, some investors adopt greenfield FDI. Greenfield FDI is 100% investment from foreign firms. But guess what? What is the disadvantage of greenfield? You can imagine advantage of M&A can be disadvantage of greenfield. You have no custom, you have no facility, you have no labor at all. You have explored from beginning completely. You might suffering from new market. That's the disadvantage of greenfield FDI. So the advantage and disadvantage is reversible or the verbal. Okay, it's reversely between, that is reverse between M&A and greenfield. The reason why you adopt M&A is because of greenfield disadvantage. Contrary, the reason why adopt greenfield FDI is disadvantage is because of this is owing to disadvantage of M&A. Okay, this is the classifications in brief of FDI. Then we will detail what is the detailing. We will look into specifications of each classifications. Okay, vertical FDI and horizontal FDI, conglomerate FDI. And also we have another detailed division from vertical FDI. We have a forward and we have a backward. Okay, so we need more inspections of this FDI because FDI is as it is a crucial and final stage once you explore new market from export to FDI. This is very critical concept exploring new market in global business. Okay, so for the detail we will continue in next class. Thank you.